Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Duval Dive. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, a student of the game of Fans First Sports Network.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And listen, after that Niners game, Travis was so excited about the concept of talking to somebody else that follows the NFC West. He had to do it again for this upcoming Seahawks game. This is why we're bringing you Bo Crouch of Football Talk with Bo and Axess Sports. By the way, in the event that the Sonics come back in Seattle, I would expect to see you with the Magic if they come into town there too, because I do that as well for Fans First Sports Network. That could be a good.
That would be amazing.
But Bo, thanks for coming. Obviously, we'll be previewing the upcoming game with the Jags hosting the Seattle Seahawks. And I have to say this, Bo, and maybe this serves for Travis as well. Heading into this season, I wasn't sure what to make of it, and obviously a lot of that is surrounding Sam Darnold. And you had said something when we were preparing for the game, and I might be going a little off script here, but I'll lead with this. I didn't know what to make of it, and I know he's thrown 3 interceptions in the past couple games or whatever, but I don't necessarily feel like the Seahawks are necessarily in trouble either offensively. It's weird. I don't know what to make of it. What do you make of that?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess there's a couple of things to unpack there. Obviously, looking at how bad Geno has been in Las Vegas, now you feel much more comfortable about the Darnold acquisition. Because when they let him go, 2 of the 3 years, Geno reset our single season passing record. So you're looking at that like, okay, I mean, did we really need to get rid of him? It's not like 45 was a crazy number. Obviously 35 is better. Darnold had an amazing year with the Vikings, but it was 1 year. So I wasn't super excited about it, right? I'm like, okay, but I remember every other stop Darnold has had. Obviously, getting drafted by the Jets. Was it him being bad, or was it just the Jets are the Jets? And then, he goes to the Panthers. It was kind of up and down, right? Like he had games that looked okay and some that weren't, but it's not like they had stars there anymore either. So, I don't know how much that was. He has an overnighter with the Niners and then goes to, the Vikings and then balls out. But he goes to the Vikings. They have a good offensive line until late in that season and tons of weapons, a good defense. So you're like, yeah, I mean, just about anybody can flourish if you have a complete team around him, right?
Right.
So then coming to Seattle, that's where my huge question mark was, because our offensive line has been bottom 3 in the league for the last 5 years running, right? And what have we seen with Sam Darnold with bad offensive lines? Well, he sees ghosts. He's running for his life. He throws really inaccurate passes, all of that, right? And, that was easily the most hammered comment ever. And so him coming in, you're like, man, we know we have a bad offensive line. We've been terrible at bringing in and cultivating talent on the line. We start having running back issues. Fun fact, if you're not following Seattle a ton, from 2014 on, our number 1 running back has been on IR every year.
Yeah.
And so that's a testament to the fact that your offensive line can't stay healthy and can't open holes. It means he's getting hit. Your running backs are getting hit by 6'5" Samoan guys that are 345 instead of your standard 235 linebacker. So obviously I want to see better production out of our offensive line, but the biggest takeaway that I've had from the Darnold acquisition is he is much more poised in the pocket, even under duress. So although our line is improved over last season, when you see him running around, he is still making better decisions than he had in other parts of his career. And even when you talked about the 3 interceptions that he had, that one that, unfortunately kind of ended the game for us, glanced off a helmet to create that deflection into an interception. So it's not like it was one of those where he just straight threw it to the other team. Like some of those chance happenings where it's a deflected pass or off a helmet or something like that, I can live with those more than when you see one it's a dart, just not to the right guy.
Yeah, that's completely changed. Well, and you see, we mentioned the O-line. Travis, you'll have to remind me because I know you do draft stuff more than I do, but I know I was pounding the table hard in draft season for Gray Zabel there, right?
Yes.
So you would think that's somebody the Jags are going to have to account for. One would think with all the offensive line struggling. I don't know well enough about that, but Travis, I know there's some stuff you were talking about too coming into the show here about the Seahawks offensive line and some questions that you had there as well.
I mean, yeah, but Gray Zabel. I mean, he's played reasonably well. For Seattle from my vantage point. I can't speak for Bo, but from my vantage point, he's played pretty well other than the flags. If he can just calm down on the holdings and things of that nature, he'd probably be fine. Like, and I know it, all the Jaguars draft links, everyone wanted Gray Zabel. Like, that was just the guy between him and Nick Emanwari. Is the other guy who was on the Seahawks roster that, if you were in the mock draft community, these are the guys you were talking about. So I want to keep it up. I want to keep it a buck. Want to keep it honest and be like, all right, cool. Just because they're on another roster does not mean I have to hate them. Like they seem to be playing reasonably well. But per Hawkmania, the Seahawks offensive line PFF grades, and they had Gray Zabel with the 43.9 run blocking and a 45.9, which was weird because, again, allowed no pressures, no sacks, no hits, or no hurries, but they still gave him a bad grade. But then basically stated that the reason for his bad grades were because of the penalties. Yeah. And that was the primary issue for Zabel. And we know about Anthony Bradford. Now, we know Bo, Nash, we know about Anthony Bradford, but I don't know if the Duval necessarily know much about the Seattle Seahawks offensive guard. So I wanted to introduce him to those of us who maybe just don't know enough about offensive line play for the Seattle Seahawks. So some of you have already seen on the socials the O-line play from him. They make TikToks and X videos about him. He's the right guard here who doesn't get a hand on the Arizona Cardinals tackle. Right guard, again, just basically gets beat off the line immediately. Doesn't get a hand on the linebacker who's stunning. He put together a highlight tape on one game, just bad play. He's running up and knocking his own offensive lineman down to the ground. And then Kobe high steps on top of the guy. They don't have him up off the ground. It's just terrible. Gets knocked out by his cornerback.
You're making our guests feel incredibly uncomfortable right now, Travis. What are you doing?
The worst part is I made one of these reels.
Oh my god!
Because I'm just like, I mean, at the end of the day, I love my Seahawks, but my job is to be objective, right? Like that is the downside. So there is a window on a Sunday where I take 3 hours and I'm a fan, and then I'll rewatch that game and I will tear it apart. And unfortunately, stuff like that is it's rough to watch. It's rough to watch.
This is not the Womack and pork chop days for sure. We a mere shadow of that. By the way, your beard is better than Womack's. Let the record show. Anyway,
all right.
I mean, I mentioned Womack. That's the first thing I thought of. I just had to get it in there, just so you knew I wasn't throwing names around. I knew who I was talking about.
I got you.
Well, I was curious of Bo's opinion because, again, I don't know enough about the Seattle Seahawks offensive line play, but I knew that he was getting that Bradford was getting double team help on just about 70% of their snaps on the season so far. And yes, that whole highlight reel was mostly about the Arizona Cardinals game, but I also knew going into the game that he was reportedly not 100% healthy. So in my head, I'm like, all right, cool. Their units only allowed a sack and 2 hits on Donald this past Sunday. He had -0 run plays. I'm like, all right, maybe this guy is not as bad as his tape was. Maybe he was injured. I don't know. Is he as bad as what we're seeing on this film? And if that's not the case, tell me I'm crazy. Like, I'm just curious about what is this dude?
So you're not wrong. He has not looked good this season. He's easily off to his worst start probably of his career. So This isn't indicative of who he's been through his career, but this is who he is this year, right? I mean, this is one of those where we're far enough into the season that what you're seeing is who people are, right?
Okay.
And I mean, if you are out there and you're playing injured, but you're an absolute liability, then you need to get off the field, because otherwise you're going to have some, Baker Mayfield treatment where you're going to get run out of town when you still have tread on the tires, but you went out there and put out a lot of bad tape. Right. So if he is so injured that he can't be in position, he can't make blocks, he needs to figure out how to get himself off the field, because he could be shortening his career if that's the case. But as it sits right now, what we're seeing, we're 5 games in, you have to start believing what you're seeing. Right. If it was week 1, week 2, a lot of guys, they're not going 100% in preseason, stuff like that. If you're putting up bad numbers and you're in bad spots the first couple of weeks of the season, that really is preseason for starters at that point.
Yeah.
And so I can't hate on you too much. Be like, you know what? It's still early and maybe timing's off, whatever. Right. But you're week 5. Now we're starting to see like who you are. And that's not unique to Bradford or the Seahawks. I mean, that's across the league, right? If you aren't playing football at a high level by week 4, week 5, your season's already in trouble, because there's only 17 games. Like, it's not like it's baseball. You're 162 where you just get off the top, lose 40, and it doesn't matter. Right?
I got you.
This is, you get to lose 4, and then you better start balling out.
Yeah, and most teams, that's you go 0-4, you're not making the playoffs. You go 1-4, you're pretty much a wrap. Yeah, so exactly. You're not wrong there. And I was curious about Bradford, because I know the Seahawks offensive line overall has not been bad. They have not been a bad unit. They just have a bad guy, right?
So there's a weird element to it. So they are actually they're good in pass protection. They're not overly great in run protection, run blocking. And some of that is because Bradford can't seem to level up on a guy. And as you watched through those pictures, when it's pass pro, he gets to kind of like buddy up onto somebody that's rushing. Well, you don't get to do that when it's a running one, right? Because you have to go get a guy. And we're not seeing him go get a guy. We've seen him go get his own guy. We've seen him whiff on guys. Well, what's that do? That means that guy is a free rusher towards your running back. So that's not great. So there's elements that are telling that if you're looking at the overall grade is hidden, because the pass pro is actually really nice. But the run and blocking, that's where you see that overall stat drop. But if you look specifically at the run blocking, you're like, oh, this is really kind of not great. And a lot of that has to do with Bradford being a liability on this. It's kind of like being a traffic cone that's no longer shiny at night. You're probably going to get hit, right? So it's unfortunately that's Bradford. But because you did mention Zabel, I do want to touch on that. If you were high on that kid, obviously the flags are an issue. A lot of rookies have flag issues, so I'm not overly concerned early in a career, early in the year.
Yeah.
But one of the things that is a huge benefit to the Seahawks, and why I was a big fan of them bringing him in, is he had meaningful snaps at every position on the line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like, he could potentially play a spot or whatever. He had meaningful snaps at every position in college. What's the one thing that Seattle's had a horrendous issue with is health on the offensive line. There is a legitimate shot that he will play at least 3 different positions on this line this year, just based on history of how much this offensive line gets beat up. So although he's been playing well in his natural position, some flags, I feel like they penalized him a little too much for the flags, but he certainly shouldn't have had a worse grade than Bradford has. But
I guess it's the flags. Yeah. And
I mean, the flags
to that point, Zabel had a lot of the strengths of Wyatt Milam and Jonah Maheim and even Chuma Adoga and Patrick McCarry. I'm sorry. All the guys that the Jaguars basically brought in. Right. All the names basically had that same versatility where they can play at least on 3 spots, if not, Patrick McCarry playing all 5. Wyatt Milam Jonah Monheim playing all 5 also. Like it was the same thing. Those are the guys who were drafted later in the draft, who kind of had that same or similar versatility, with Patrick McCarry being a free agent. So that was why I think a lot of people in Duval light Gray Zabel for that same versatility that you mentioned, and we end up getting I guess, other guys who seem to be very promising based on their play so far, who kind of have that similar versatility.
See, this is how we're having fun on this exchange here, guys. We're talking with Bo, previewing the Seahawks. We haven't even gotten to the keys to the game yet. What's going on?
It's so funny that he says making Sam Darnold see ghosts when, in the past and pressures. And I'm like, oh, that's funny because that's one of our keys to the game is making old Sam Darnold come to the party. Please join us, Sam. They're calling you to the front desk. So, yeah.
Hey, Halloween's coming up. Halloween's coming up.
So overall, Sam Darnold struggles under pressure, and I know Bo. Yeah, you liked what he's been comparatively to Geno, but also there is still the conversation that needs to be had. He's under pressure. Darnold is quarterback 32 of 33 qualified quarterbacks with a catchable throw rate. He's 32nd in highly accurate throw rate under pressure per fantasy points. And I'm like, all right, cool. So pressuring him means that you're going to get a lesser version of him, but that doesn't mean it's going to be necessarily a bad version. It's just going to be like a lot of quarterbacks. He's going to do a little bit worse when he's under pressure. This is kind of what I was indicating last time, earlier on, as far as you saying, hey, so it's one of the offensive linemen is the primary issue, is the primary question. And I'm with you there. I think Bradford is that weak link on your offensive line. But I posted earlier on the socials, Travis D. Holmes on X, Blue Sky, all the places. Sam Darnold has 114.8 passer rating with 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a 73.1 completion rate. When he's just as a normal quarterback, he's 2.76 time to throw, and he's been sacked 6 times overall. And I'm like, that looks epic. That looks incredible. But then when you just look at him under pressure, it's like, oh, so all the bad stuff came under pressure. He had 2 interceptions of his 3 interceptions came while he was under pressure. Mm-hmm. He's a 76.8 quarterback rating. His completion percentage drops to 55.8, which is around the same percentage that folks was slamming Trevor Lawrence just like 2 weeks ago, when his completion rate was down to 55%. And I'm like, oh, all 6 sacks surrendered came under pressure, which, well, duh, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, it kind of has to. And his average time to throw is 3.22 seconds, which I'm like, oh, that's actually interesting. So he's extending the plays, but still taking these sacks. Like his 3.22 seconds means you definitely had enough time to get the ball out, and you just didn't at that point. I'm like,
or
okay.
it could be an element too that the successful plays where he sees no pressure is due to quick passing as well. I mean, we see plenty of that when you have a struggling offensive line and a guy that's worse under pressure. They come out with doing quick passing and stuff. Stuff we see with screens when people want to ask the Jags to run the ball more, for example. Not that I'm mentioning any names there, Duval divers, but
yeah, but I mean, you can call it out. It's Justin Fields' entire career.
Justin Fields' entire career. Dang.
I wasn't ready for that, Bo. I wasn't ready.
Where's the lie, though?
No one said anything about the lack of truth. Go ahead.
But I did want to get your thoughts because I know ball. I've been on multiple podcasts for over a year with Bo. For anyone who doesn't watch the South Florida Tribune,
I just talked Matt Flynn with this guy. He obviously knows ball.
And I know I trust his general opinion on this. So since I know he does cover Seattle, and if those in the Duval County area, if you listen to Jaguars today, you've already heard the Seattle radio host Ian Furness on Jaguars today on Wednesday. He had a few thoughts on the quarterback battle between these two teams, and I just kind of wanted to get Bo's thoughts and Bo's take on, does he agree with this or kind of where he falls within it?
Quarterback, your guy's not very good.
You think so, huh?
Yeah, I think the whole league knows that. I'm sorry. I hate to be that guy, but I mean, I don't know. He's an odd dude, man. Like I there's so much there you'd think, but I don't know. I think Sam's a little bit better right now, and I'm Lawrence has just got to be an enigma for you guys, isn't he? Like he's got to drive you guys crazy at times. He wins a big game, but boy, just as easily he could have lost that game the other day. And your defense is scary. Like there's no doubt. Like that's a big time defense. I think watching Monday night, we all watched with great, anticipation up here. if you guys didn't get, Kansas City chiefed a few times on some calls, I'm still trying to figure out how that wasn't pass interference at one point. You probably win that game going away. But I think Darnold's just playing at an elite level right now.
So,
well, okay. So, I mean, there's a couple of things. Obviously, we've known each other for quite a while, and I'm not high on Trevor Lawrence, right? But I recognize there's a lot of talent there, right? Some of the conversations we've had, over the year is his unprovoked mistakes. Mm-hmm. Like those are the things, especially the fumbles when he's by himself. Like those are the things where you're just like, man, what are we doing? Right? Because he has a ton of talent, and there's so much upside for Trevor Lawrence, but then he has a tendency to get in his own way. Right. And so for this last week in our Pick'em championship, I had the Jags winning. Right. And then the first thing I see him do is fumble at the 1 inch line. And I'm like, come on, man.
You're completely leaving out throwing. You're completely leaving out throwing, past the line of scrimmage by at least 3 yards.
Yeah, 3 yards.
Right?
Yeah.
The second time in 3 weeks. Yeah.
There was plenty of things to not like, but that one, I was just like, if there was a moment that was potentially going to give the game away, it's that, right? And so, then you have to close out the game. He gets stepped on, right? He falls down, he gets up, but then falls down again. And I'm like, you remember the old show, Football Follies? Like, this is exactly what this is, right? And for those of you too young to know that, Google it, because it was actually pretty funny. Yeah. So then, he leaks out the side and makes a great, effort to dive into the end zone. Some of that based on the fact that, Jones on KC's side decided not to play defense.
Do you have any idea how late it was that night? He needed a nap, Bo.
I mean, he was taking one. So, no, I mean, that's probably the thing that I sort of agree with Ian on is there's inconsistencies that are maddening. And so, so I agree with him that far. Him saying
you agree with him on the part that Trevor Lawrence is an enigma. You agree on that piece at least. Yeah. And we talked about this on Wednesday's Duval Dive, just so you know. Yeah. Like we had a whole segment in which we broke down. All right, cool. Trevor Lawrence had a great game, but also he took a delay of game at the 15-yard line with the game on the line under 2 minutes left. He took a sack at a time that even a high schooler and your mama in the stands knows you can't take a sack. Exactly. You got stepped on and tripped on. I mean, you dove over the top with the ball. Even the coach in his post game said it was a coaching moment to not put the ball over the top because you're doing a tush push situation. There's a few things that did happen that we got to be able to acknowledge shouldn't have happened.
Does anybody call it a quarterback?
NFL quarterback.
Anymore? Like, can we get back to that, please? I
know. No,
yes, NFL quarterback. So I'm with you and the whole he's an enigma. He's going to be up and down or Jekyll and Hyde on moments or inconsistent in that way. I do understand that. But then to also not acknowledge the other person you're talking about on the other side of that line is still Sam Darnold.
Exactly.
It's like, yo, wait, what?
And that's where our opinions differ a little bit is him going as far as saying that Sam is playing at an elite level. I can't get into that. There's a stat out there that I wish had more recognition behind it. It's one that gets swept under the rug that I feel like is way more important. Everybody always wants to talk about sacks because it's flashy, sexy, whatever, right? Yeah. The stat I like is quarterback hurries because hurries create mistakes. Mm-hmm. Sacks, that's great. You can have 4 sacks in a game, but if that's the only 4 times you got home, who cares? But if you have a 50% hurry rate, all of a sudden you might have 2 picks or a fumble because they're scrambling and they generally don't have the best ball skills. And so then it means your guys are getting there and moving them off their spot. Now, sacks are great. You still want sacks. I'm not saying throw that stat out, but I would rather have a quarterback moved off his spot all day than the 4 or 5 times we might have got there.
I mean, I don't know, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. Call me Coach Gruden, because I'm all about sacks. I mean, F them pressures. I'm sorry, I'm just being real.
As a DB, that's how you get interceptions is pressures.
Exactly.
That's the point.
No. I hear you. I'm with you, but also give me getting the guy on the ground, because it's too many athletic quarterbacks these days. These days is not the old days. And by that, I mean, the old days, you had a lot of these guys that were statues, and a pressure would mean that you're pretty much, guaranteed to get an inaccurate pass, or a guy who's just really uncomfortable, maybe giving you interceptions. These guys are athletic these days. Pressures don't do anything to Joe Burrow. Pressures don't do anything to Pat Mahomes. Like, you look at those guys' stats, and they're generally the same under pressure and not under pressure, versus sacking them, get him on the ground. I know the play's over.
I agree mostly. So a pressure and a hurry are a little different, though, because a pressure means you're coming in, but they're still able to operate. A hurry means they're not allowed to operate. They're moving.
Right.
And so yes, I agree. If what you're talking about is pressure rate, then no, every single one of these guys can operate through pressure rate. I agree with you 100%. My angle on that is quarterback hurries, because you are moving them off their spot. So if you have a good hurry rate, and that's why I say it's not a stat that's used a lot. They like pressure rates because that is a PFF gradable rate. A hurry rate isn't. So it doesn't get talked about a lot because that is a group effort. So that's not, dependent on any one person. So
I got you.
So that's why I like a hurry rate, because that's where you see interceptions, fumbles, stuff like that. If you're not getting a good hurry rate, then get them on the ground, because that means you got one dude getting the work in. And so that's where that pressure rate comes in. It's like, okay, well, the pressure rate was good. Well, yeah, because you have one guy that's good and the rest of them are statues out there. Or maybe it's the Bengals defense and their road cones, it's just, so then, sacks are hugely important because the other guys aren't doing their job.
Well, and I mean, we're throwing the defense out there, mentioning pressures and hurries and things like that. I think that both impacts key point 2 and 3 here, both that Travis has here in the keys to victory slide here. Every Duval diver's favorite slide on Friday. With BTJ and Hunter as receivers, by the way. I'm assuming he's here as a receiver when you're pairing him with BTJ.
To the moon. Yes, BTJ and Travis Hunter to the moon, in the words of all of our stonk investors out there.
I thought you were making a Space Needle reference or something.
No, man, but I just see what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did in week 5 against this Seahawks defense. And I have to ask Bo a question that I think I know the answer to, but I wanted to confirm his thoughts on this, and maybe the Duuuval about who maybe have not watched that game or did not watch the highlights. Bo, what the hell happened? What happened to the Seattle Seahawks versus that injured Buccaneers team in week 5? I got to know.
So there's actually quite a few things. Obviously, there was a lot of injuries on the defense, right? Witherspoon was out. You had Woolen get a concussion, in the second quarter. Julian Love is out.
So this is your safety, your starting safety, your starting nickelback, one of your corners.
Both corners. You also have
starting corner, starting nickelback, and starting free safety.
And our main safety, and then Etienne was coming in on a pitch count, re-injured himself. And so even our strong safety had limited contact out there. So you're talking about an entirely missing secondary at that point. Okay. And so there's some issues with that. That being said, that wasn't the whole problem. We actually had a coaching issue as well. So if you look at some of the most impactful plays when it comes from the Bucs, and even on that last drive that helped them get in position to kick that field goal, the one thing they can't do, and maybe some of the injuries had to do with this, but if you watched, they were running all of their defenses with a cover 2 blanket style safety pairing. Right. So they do 2-man, something like that, where maybe they were manned up or they were playing low zones, but the top 2 safeties were playing cover 2. Right. Yes. And the problem is if you are playing cover 2 safeties and you're set up at 15 to 18 yards deep. You have a middle linebacker that is doing a low zone. What's open? The middle of the field all day. So if you watch where the Bucs ate constantly is an 8 to 12 yard middle zone sit down. It's wide open. All three of us on this panel could hit that today, because when you watch those get completed, there was barely a guy in the screen. If there's no defense around a guy, it doesn't have to be a rocket ship to get to him, because I don't care how fast you are, you ain't that fast.
So you're thinking that maybe there was a concern with the injury situation, that they just played uber conservative in the secondary or in the linebackers or something along those lines?
Well, it was clearly a schematic issue, because they were allowing that play to happen all day. And why I say it was a coaching issue is that was still wide open on the final drive, which means we never even accounted for the fact that we were getting barbecued on it, right? So you can blame your guys getting hurt as much as you want, but if you just keep running the same defense when it's not working, that is no longer a personnel issue. That is, your coaching has to adjust. Like, even if you were going to do stacked safeties where you had your free safety playing center field and you had your strong safety come down to at least fill in the middle zone, right? Maybe it starts to open up a seam route for a guy, or, something like that. But you can't just give up the middle of the field all day. Like, you will lose that game.
Interesting. So this is an interesting week for Brenton Strange to be placed on IR for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Or it's an interesting week for Hunter Long and Munt to step up and show that this TE core was just what Kyle said, that they didn't need to draft anything for. I'm just saying.
But yeah, very interesting for a Jacksonville Jaguars receiver core that loves to go to the middle of the field, the opposite of Doug Peterson's previous Jacksonville Jaguars core that would mostly stay outside of the hashes. So yeah, maybe if the Seahawks continue with that interesting philosophy of abandoning the middle of the field, this will be a great week for both BTJ, Travis Hunter, and maybe even Travis Etienne as a receiver out of the backfield.
Etienne absolutely is going to get some stuff in the middle of the field if we don't get some of these guys back. Now, obviously, as it sits today, we have a laundry list of questionable players. So we don't know as it sits today what that looks like. Maybe some of these guys get back. But if we are looking at a situation where we're running out there with what we had this last week, I bet Etienne absolutely goes off as a receiver.
Wow. Okay. So with that in mind, think of that if you're doing FanDuel this week, by the way. But go ahead, Travis.
Yes.
No, I mean, again, even if you're talking about like before this week, I mean, Christian McCaffrey does this to everybody, but he put up 79 yards in the receiving game in week 1 against the Seahawks defense. And that was in addition to Juszczyk putting up another 32 in that same week receiving. So like you have that guy, you have the Jaylen Warren in week 2 puts up 86 yards in receiving. With Kenneth Gainwell, his backup, putting up another 16 yards in the air. So you're talking about nearly 100 yards. Well, sorry, basically 100 yards given up to running backs in the first 2 games of the season. The only week that I would have expected someone to just have a dominant game in the air against them again after that was Alvin Kamara, and he actually didn't have a good game. He only had 14 yards in the air. So I don't know what to do with that information. I thought you guys improved. I don't know.
So it was the Saints, man.
They aren't good.
Come on.
Yes.
Come on. Let's call them what they are. They are on a quest to get that number 1 overall pick, right? They're not a great roster. They're a full rebuild team. Now, obviously the Jets are giving them a run for their money there, but arguably they're probably the bottom 2 team in the league. So even if you have a couple of decent guys, you're not going to do great, right? That would be like saying, Temple, because they had 2 dudes, is going to somehow beat up Alabama. It's just not going to happen, right? Those 2 dudes are still nice. There's nothing wrong with them, but there's a whole roster of other dudes.
I got you. So for the fantasy football community, Travis Etienne, maybe even Bashaw Tootin in the passing game, bet the over. If it's like 25 yards receiving to 30 yards receiving, probably bet the over.
Oh,
Hell, even Rashad White got 30 yards for Tampa Bay last week, and
so what I hear is you're shooting for Tootin. I got you, dog. Okay.
Yeah, no, especially if that's the line on it. If it's like 25 yards receiving you definitely take that. You smash that all day, especially because of the way that they've been protecting the middle or not protecting the middle of the field. That's
right.
That's going to be open, especially if you're doing any kind of, like block release type routes. Like that's going to be money all day.
I mean, the Jaguars, just like the Minnesota Vikings, just like the Rams, because they're all from the same system, they are always going to lead in the amount of screens, whether that's jailbreak screens, bubble screens, running back screens, tight end screens, etc. to all these guys. So that those middle of the field type screen plays, you're going to likely see three of them in the game at least, like just from the jump. Just the question of whether or not they pop. That's going to be the question.
Yeah.
But also, and I didn't even mention the different running backs. I mean, you got, as far as the quarterbacks with BTJ and Travis Hunter, Ricky Pearsall put up 100 yards, 110 yards on these guys in week 1. Chris Olave had a 10 reception, 57-yard game. That's weird. That's a weird stat line, just in general. And Emeka Egbuka put up 163 yards against these guys because, again, they were injured last week. So I'm looking at that number with my eyes like, dang, if these guys are missing, I think the Jaguars have the players to be able to do something like that, which is why I say, Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, obviously, that's a huge key to the game. If these guys are even reasonably unhealthy with one of their safeties or maybe even multiple of their cornerbacks missing, you got to have a dominant day, right? Like, you got to have a 100-yard day just to make them pay for it.
See, sure. This is the problem with having you small folks on the show. I see all these injuries, and I'm saying keep it on the ground for 2 reasons. A, they're injured, and they're not going to stop you. And B, I'm going to bring in piece number 4 here, protect the ball, because as much as all of us talked about the random lapses in concentration that Trevor Lawrence has, the best way you take that off the table is Travis Etienne and Bashaw Tootin, and you beat them up front and you keep that beast on the ground. Hey, who knows? Maybe this week he actually passes Derrick Henry for rushing yards if you're one Travis Etienne. I don't know. I maybe not too. I'm not trying to disrespect the Seahawks outright.
So I wouldn't do that. And the only reason I say that is Seattle's rush defense is actually really good. So you'd be running into the teeth of what this defense does well. If you are looking at a secondary that is riddled with injuries, a middle of the field that you can't protect, there's no way you're handing the ball off to run into the teeth of the defense. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's interesting because this is an offense that wants to run the ball.
I know.
So that is a philosophical quandary, to say the case, like the least. Like, if I say this is who I am in my identity, that I want to run the ball, and you are showing me that I should.
Let me give you 2 numbers and see if it would alter your game plan, even if you are the run first, heart all the way. Okay. Mm-hmm. Seattle's defense, 3rd in rushing yards. Right? They give up 83 yards a game rushing.
Yep.
26th in passing, 257 yards a game. You're telling me you would rather run into the face of a wall rather than give a bloop 8 yards that's open all day.
But see, and I hear that.
You can't honestly be telling me this right now.
I hear that.
I'm not. I was just playing devil's advocate.
The only thing I would question is you throw out stats and rankings to make your point, Bo. And hey, listen, in week 10, that's awesome. But when you have 4 or 5 games in, you don't really have a super big set of data, so to speak. And one of your weeks is slot receiver who lines up in the backfield, Alvin Kamara. I'm a little less convinced. That being said, I agree with you. They're the strength of the defense. But remember, here on the Duval Dive, we actually count the screen game as part of the run game. It's just a longer handoff. Hey, it worked for Belichick and Thomas Edward Patrick Bieber Brady when they were younger. I'm just saying.
Hey, I'm not saying you're abandoning the run. You can't become one-dimensional. I'm just saying that you are running into the strength of a defense that has a menagerie of issues outside of it.
You know what? I'm okay with you telling me I'm wrong because you use the word menagerie very nicely. I'm good with all of this conversation.
That was pretty solid. Yeah, that was a nice landing.
But no, I mean, like,
words.
Word of the day: toilet paper. Let's go. But no, I mean, at the end of the day, and it's unfortunate because again, I'm a Seahawks fan. I want to be laying out how we're going to beat you. But the problem is what I'm seeing on the defensive side. It's going to be very hard. Our offense can hang with anybody, right? They can score points. They can move down the field. So I'm not worried about the offensive side as much. The defense is every bit of we're going to be in a shootout all the time. And then, it's going to be like Tampa Bay, who has the ball last is going to win. That is my worry with the way this Seahawks team is set up, because the offense does score points.
So the offense but who has this offense played defensively? Like, I want to be clear. I'm not judging. I'm not throwing shade. I'm truly asking the question objectively, because we're talking about a 5-game sample size, and they played the 49ers and scored 13 points and lost.
Yeah. They
played the Steelers, the Saints, and then they won against the Cardinals, scoring 23 points. And, an injury-riddled Buccaneers team scored 35. So the offense is doing well, and I will agree with you, but also I got questions on what it is.
No, for sure. And I mean, so the Bucs, they did have a lot of injuries. Not on the defense, though.
I mean, there's still Vita Vea. I hear where you're going.
Yeah, like a lot of their injuries were actually the offensive side of the ball, which actually lets you know how bad the defense was. So, because they were letting them score, and that's not a dig at Baker or anything like that. It's just, when you're missing personnel, it should be easier to slow an offense down, and they just really weren't able to do that. The Bucs defense isn't horrible. Like, it's not riddled with injuries. Like, they still have most of their dudes there. So, I mean, that's still a real defense they were moving on. Arizona isn't a bad defense. Their offense is the big question mark because they're so wildly inconsistent, right? Sometimes they just forget that they have superstars on it, but their defense is good. Like, the Cardinals defense isn't a bad unit. The Saints, again, you throw that game out, the Saints are the Saints. The Steelers, again, not a bad defense.
Hey, that's where we'll disagree. But I was with you. So I was with you for a good portion of that, at least. I think the Steelers defense is pretty rough right now in 2025.
So the Steelers aren't who you're used to seeing.
Right.
Just like the Ravens aren't, the Ravens are probably the worst defense they've had in a decade. The Steelers aren't the Steelers we're used to seeing, but they're not like a bottom 5 defense. They're a middle of the road defense. Now, by Steelers standings, that's terrible. But in the scheme of the league, they're not a horrible unit.
You also have to be mindful of the fact that the Steelers now have Jalen Ramsey on the squad, so I'm not sure how much that's shaping Travis's opinion. I'm kidding, buddy. I'm kidding.
I watched every Steelers game this season, and somebody tells me the Steelers defense is good. Well, maybe, but he didn't say good. He said average, and I think maybe average. But that week one put a bad taste in my mouth watching them versus the Jets and give up 32 points. Like, I was like, yo, that's not gonna work. They may have won the game, but they lost the award. And that's kind of where I'm landing overall.
And then, of course, the Niners, that 5th game, the Niners have a good defense. I mean,
the Niners are good. Yeah.
So I mean,
I don't disagree, but
so when you're going through the list, it's not like we played scrubs, right? Like, we played decent defenses.
Average NFL defenses. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonably what it is.
It's not like, they started out playing Carolina and
exactly
the Bengals, and then
I'm comparing that to a Jacksonville Jaguars defense that leads the league in turnovers.
There he goes.
I'm comparing that to, so I'm asking, all right, cool. We see what you guys look like against an average NFL defense. This might not be that. And I'm not saying the Jacksonville Jaguars are the steel curtain, because I don't believe that to be factual at all. I'm going to be very clear. Like, they have opportunities also. Like, it depends on Trevor Walker plays. Like, they need help getting pressure without blitzing all the time. But also against Sam Bradford, goodness gracious, Sam Donald.
I mean, still kind of true.
Yeah, kind of the same guy. against Sam Darnold. I mean, making him want to see ghosts. I mean, if you show 7 and you blitz 4 and you just do that the whole game, you're probably going to get pressure anyways, whether or not Trevon Walker plays or not. I just think that's something that he's going to struggle with in any case, because that's something he struggled with even against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I know, that the ball went off the helmet on the interception play. Nevertheless, he himself said it was a bad play by him.
It was a bad play
in his post game because he didn't flip the protection.
So
he knew where the blitz was coming from.
Like if we were going to say, it wasn't a great play, but if we were going to pick one that you're just like, that was a terrible decision, it actually wasn't that play. It was a few plays before that when they were backed up on the goal line, and he almost threw one directly to the D end in the end zone. Right? Like it hit him square in the hands. It's a good thing it was a big man that can't catch, because that was a touchdown all day. So that was a horrible pass that ended up not mattering. But the one that does get picked, obviously, it was deflected pass. So that one I can live with. The one that wasn't one, I couldn't. Like I barbecued him, even though it wasn't a play. Like I was on a podcast saying these decisions can't happen. Like we didn't get burned by it, but we should have.
You get on him like I get on Trevor, and people call me a hater.
Sir, I was about to say exactly.
Hey, just because it didn't count doesn't mean the tape doesn't exist.
Right. It doesn't mean the decision wasn't made to do this, and that can't be made.
Exactly.
Just because you didn't get burned doesn't mean the tape has to be. Anyways, go ahead. Bro.
That's it, man. So let's get into it. The tail of the tape, since we keep talking about it. The Seattle Seahawks, they're 5th in the league with 29.2 points per game scored, with the Jacksonville Jaguars at 9th, 25.4. The Seahawks are 8th in the league in passing yards per game with 252, with the Jaguars at 18th at 213, which is nearly what they threw for on Monday Night Football. Jaguars are 17th in rushing. The Seahawks are 17th in rushing yards per game at 113 yards per game, with the Jacksonville Jaguars at 5th with 137 averaged per game on the ground. The Seahawks are 12th with 13 defensive sacks, with the Jaguars still at 25th with 7. Not a lot of sacks in the week against Pat Mahomes, so we didn't move anywhere there. And the Jaguars are 1st in the NFL with 10 interceptions, as the Seahawks are 3rd with 7. You guys are actually doing good there. 7 interceptions.
No, and see, that's the thing, is the defense being as injured as they are in the secondary is huge, because it is a good secondary, but you're only as good as you are when they're on the field. Right. And so that's the big question. Obviously we have, most of these guys are questionable. And if any of them don't play, that hurts a lot. But because you saw how close those stats were top to bottom with each other, that's the reason Vegas's line is a 1.5.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even Vegas is like,
Vegas's line is a 1.5, and I want to ask you what your line and what Kyle's line is. But before we get there, we got to get into your X factors. Who's the guy on either team that you just feel like if the game's going to come down to this guy? I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's definitely going to have his name on it.
So I'm struggling with this one because of the amount of injuries. Because I don't know if they're going to play.
Completely fair.
So the biggest one for me is if Julian Love comes back, then I feel better about our leaky middle of the field, because he has enough speed to make up that distance. So that'll be a huge element. If I was going to pick a guy on the opposite side, then it would absolutely be Travis Hunter, because he has an ability to get away from guys. And since we will be cornerback 1 is really our cornerback 3, that's a problem, right? Because Witherspoon's out, Woolen's out. That's your starting corners. So now your main dude, your number 1 guy is your nickel, right? That doesn't inspire confidence. And so if I was going to look at the Jaguar side, I got to say Hunter might be that guy, because he runs in a way where he finds openings. And if you have your nickel corner who is a nickel because he doesn't cover that great, there's going to be separation there.
I mean, that could be an argument for De'Ami Brown if he makes it back for this game, Travis. That's an interesting
he's
point.
good. Yeah, De'Ami's good already because he was good against the 49ers. I think he's definitely going to be there. That's the De'Ami Brown argument. That's an argument for all these guys who are fast on the Jaguars receiving core, frankly. Interesting. Do you have one? Well, who is yours, Kyle?
Well, and listen, we said before the show, you know where I'm going, and I'm going to make it obvious. Hell, it's Jonah Monheim, right? If it turns out that Robert Hainsey isn't going to play as the starting center, you need this guy against this solid front in the run game to not only be able to handle things, but to climb to the second level to take care of business. And if as many guys are as missing online at the linebacker core as could potentially be for the Seahawks, this young man's going to get a chance to show out. And then I'm going to be able to tell Bo after the game potentially, see, this is why I said run. No, I'm kidding. But you know, Jonah Monheim holding his own here. Granted, he'll be supported theoretically. I mean, there's a lot of, shall we say, limited practice time for the starters with the Jaguars. We mentioned on Wednesday that only one starter practiced on Wednesday, right? So, you know, just
in a full capacity, just to be clear, they were limited.
Correct, right? That wasn't limited. I should have said correct. So as we're heading to finish out the week here, how that goes, we won't know exactly, but we do know Jonah Monheim's going to be a big part of it.
So, you know, since I have you guys, how do you look at injury reports? Because for me, when I see, you know, obviously we got tons of guys that are questionable, right? And questionable doesn't always mean the same thing to me, right?
Yep.
So when I'm looking at a list, right, we have Witherspoon, questionable with a knee, right? Now it says a knee, it doesn't say ACL, MCL, PCL strains, right? This just says a knee, which makes it sound like it's a hard part, right? When it's bone style, I think Witherspoon plays.
Yeah,
right?
It's nothing.
So when I look at DeMarcus Lawrence, questionable, quad, probably not playing.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say hamstring or something.
Anything soft tissue related.
Yep.
That's
Julian Love, hamstring. Bet he doesn't play. Josh Jones, ankle. Bet he tapes it up. Right? So that's the way I look at these. Ernest Jones, shoulder. That one legitimately is questionable because as a linebacker, your shoulder has to work. So that one legitimately is questionable to me. Emin Wari, appendix. I'm going to go with that sounds problematic.
as somebody who's dealt with that person is not playing.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course, Woolen concussion, obviously he's not playing. But you know, anytime I see quad, calf, hamstring, it's a wrap. Right. Like it may say questionable because that's some gamesmanship to make you prepare for him.
Right.
But that dude ain't playing. But when it's an ankle, a knee, a shoulder from most positions, I lean more towards I'm going to see him on the field. So this is where, you know, I'm worried because D-Law is a quad. All right. Josh, let's see, Julian Love, hamstring, not great because that guy is a key to helping fix the problem in the middle of the field. But with a hamstring, you know what you don't have is burst, right?
Wow.
And as somebody that's severely pulled one, I actually tore a portion. I can tell you it takes a minute to come back from that. So it's I don't know. So there's elements of this defense that I'm almost positive doesn't come back. And one of the keys to fixing the middle of the field is one of those guys.
Right. And the whole reason I go with O-line too, you all those stuff you mentioned about how you read the report is completely valid. By the way, to your point, Robert Hainsey's listed with a hammy, just throwing that out there. But for me, I look at the concentration of where the injuries are, right? So just as an example, on Wednesday, the Jags had 2 tackles limited. You know, all 2 guys listed as tackles because the Jags have so many versatile dudes. They'll put a tackle, but maybe he's the guard, whatever.
See, but I don't mind a Wednesday limited practice or DNP.
Right. Of course, but what I'm getting to, what I look at is the concentration of the positioning, right? If I have a lot of guys limited early, I'm going to start looking as to who's coming out of it where. What injury is obviously a thing too. because that tells me rotation is coming, because some guys play hurt and not injured. So whether they play or not, if I see that concentration, that's where I get worried, right? For those of you listening who are members of the Duval Devout, Cam Robinson was hurt plenty, didn't miss many games, but he sure as hell didn't finish that many. And that's the kind of thing I'm looking for here.
No. That is absolutely an element, right? I mean, especially when you're looking at, were they listed coming into the week and then they didn't practice, limited practice? You're like, okay, these guys are probably playing. But when it's a full practice, no practice, you're like, okay, that might have been a rest day. But then now you're looking at like, okay, what is Friday? Was that a limited? Was it another DNP? Because if it's another DNP, if he does play, it's a pitch count, right? At best. So I mean, there's definitely more that goes into it, but you'd need a 2-hour show for that.
I'd spend more time on that than I would, but I thought it was interesting, and hopefully all divers did as well. But Travis, keep going. We were doing comps. I'm sorry, I completely.
Nah, man, my X factor is Mason Smith and Devon Hamilton against basically whichever defensive tackle is going to be lining up against Anthony Bradford. I want all of that. I want all the shares of that guy. So that's Mason Smith, who got 4 pressures on 12 snaps, on 12 pass rushing snaps against the Chiefs.
Well, we have to ask the Seahawks guy this, like, in your mind, seeing Eric Armstead again, like, you thought you were done with this, and now here he comes. Is this a thing that you're seeing, or?
I mean, I'm more focused on our shortcomings than who's lining up.
Fair enough.
Because at this point, Bradford hasn't stopped anybody.
What does it matter if it's Eric Armstead?
Right? Like it could be you or me. Like, he spent more time tackling his own dude against the Cardinals.
That's fair. You left the game with the tackle.
I had a fun point here. No.
You can't whiff on a guy the way he does. I mean, you watch in your clips. You watched him leave a hole you could have drove a tank through. So I mean, some of those, they were lucky that you weren't blitzing on those whiffs, because that'd have been a home run. We'd be talking about, Drew Lock starting.
Drew Lock. God, he was still in the league, bro. Thank you.
Hey, you know what? He is actually a super competent backup. Like, when you're looking at backup quarterbacks out there, if you need a guy that can actually come in and win you a game, Drew Lock is one of those guys.
Sure. So is Gardner.
Weirdly, isn't that common when you think of the backups.
So just to wrap everything up, we are going to enter into our final predictions for this week's game, which is crazy to me. If you've seen the guys over at NFL.com, you already know that 7 of the NFL analysts predict that the Seahawks will win this game with the high score. They have the Seahawks scoring around 30 points. The lowest prediction has the Seahawks scoring around 21 in a victory. Meanwhile, the 3 analysts, including Maurice Jones, Drew, Adam Rank, and Bucky Brooks.
I was about to say, there's 2 homers in there for them to even get to 3. This is crazy.
Predict that the Jaguars will win, scoring anywhere from 29 points to 27 points. So high scoring game, no matter how you look at it, is what's being predicted by these analysts. Where do you guys land here?
So if it were to be played today, right, where I have no idea what my defense looks like, then I am going towards it'll probably be something more like Adam Rank's.
Adam Rank has 27 Jacksonville to 26 Seahawks.
Yeah, because that means our defense, just isn't playing. Realistically, you guys might score over 30 in that scenario. I was just picking that one because it was a closer score. Yeah. But for all intents and purposes, if the over under was like 48, I'd be taking the over in this, right?
Yeah.
So, I look at, if our defense rolls out the way that it is right now, Jags win probably by, about a touchdown. I'm thinking 4 to 7 points, right? If we get a good portion of our defense back, I think it ends up being more like that 30-27 type of game, because then we'll have a couple of series where we do actually stop you. And I think our offense is good enough that whether our defense shows up or not, they're going to put up about 30 points.
Okay. And you, Nash?
I'll say this. As much as I'm kerfluffled by 7 out of 3 picking the Seahawks, I do absolutely love where these point totals are at. All in the 50s, none in the 60s. That's right where I think it's going to be. That being said, I'm going to go 37-27. Cam Little's going to get in here again and get a little something, I feel like. I don't know why I have a 10-point deficit here. That's just what I'm feeling. And I think this is a situation where I think both teams don't get turnovers, but I think there's one big stand where, Darnold needs to make a play on a money down late. Can't quite do it against this defense on that particular go round. And then Cam Little tacks on the field goal late to make it that 10-point piece, kind of in garbage time, but mostly just to put it out of reach in the fourth quarter.
I like that you immediately went for I like that none of them are in the 60-point range, and then you just blew it into the 60-point range.
I really did. It makes no sense. I don't blame you for calling that out, Bo. I'm a little disappointed in me too. But the reason why I'm saying that is for all the times I've told them they are smoking something the past 2 weeks for putting the game in the 50-point range. Just say it.
Okay. I think I'll go with my prediction at the Jaguars 30, the Seahawks 21. So I'm putting that closer to that. Actually, I don't even know if anybody even has that. I guess MJD. I guess you can call me a homer if you need to, but I just think the Jacksonville Jaguars continue this streak of just beating some reasonably dominant teams. They let one slip. They're one bad pass interference call from being 5-0.
Yep.
And that's the part that we're kind of missing when they're not even playing their best football. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are on their way to doing something serious right here in Duval County. I don't know, man. I think it's coming.
You would use the Grim Reaper gift here for those that are listening on the pod. I'm not mad at you. I just wasn't ready for it, man.
I'm not mad at it. I think it's hilarious.
Let the record show this is my first 2-score victory that I've called for your Jacksonville Jaguars. They're Duval divers.
All right.
I think Bo has been reasonable. Yeah, I think Bo has been reasonable. Like, and I want to give him credit on this because to those who don't know, like, he's not a homer. He's actually trying to be objective, covering his team, but also he gave the Jacksonville Jaguars their flowers, even on his own power rankings. Like, he placed them at 7th in the NFL in his own power rankings. So I want to be clear and letting them know, hey, man, we appreciate you trying to be objective as you possibly can, and evaluating these Jacksonville Jaguars, but he also did put his Seattle Seahawks top 10. I thought that was interesting too.
I mean, I got more problems with where he put the Colts than I do the Seahawks, but that's cool.
So
he does have them at 5th. Oh my gosh.
So it's because you're starting to see them beat actual teams. And even in the loss to the Rams, that had more to do with them giving that game away.
Correct.
Than it did with the Rams beating them. Right. Okay. So realistically, that's another team that could be undefeated. And so when they played the first couple of games, I'm like, yeah, okay, like, let's calm down. But now we're 5 weeks in. And I mean, you're looking at a team that just beat the brakes off the Raiders, right? And I understand it's the Raiders, but at the same time, you have to beat the teams that are on your schedule. And if you're going to beat a bad team, you got to beat them big. And they did, right? So, I mean, you're seeing them do all the things that real teams do. It just feels weird because it's the Colts. And so it took me a couple of weeks to even take them serious.
And here's the reason why I still can't, because like I'm on record and I'm not straying from it, right? I'm still in that place where at the beginning of the season, before the season started, I said I can't find 5 wins. And then the Broncos handed them one. So like I'm still in that space of, and in fairness, that balances out from the standpoint that the Rams game went the way that it did. I kept wanting to say Raiders there, and that wasn't the right game. But listen, the best thing about that Colts Raiders game is that Ashton Genty showed up. That was nice. Everybody got their they're fixing that young man doing his thing. But beyond that, like, what was it? Our friend of the show, the general Mike Patton of touring the AFC South, said to us, because he was a credentialed member of the Titans media crew there covering the Colts and the Titans, and he's like, "Oh, this Colts team's legit." It's like, can they not be playing the Titans first? So
yeah.
I like the point you make about a real team, and I like the fact that they dominated the Raiders. They did what they were supposed to do. I'm with that. I still need more. But
I'm with you, especially when people are saying things like Danny Dimes is now an MVP favorite. I'm like, pump the brakes. Let's calm down.
That roster is awesome and has been for a minute.
Yeah, well, but I mean, the biggest thing is when people are talking about, the MVP candidates, first off, it's week 5. Can we just not? But at the same time, because they keep bringing it out there, they're like, oh, it's Daniel Jones, it's Dak. And so now you're talking about just nonsense, right? Like we're just, like, we've watched football before. And so when your leading candidates in week 5 is Dak and Daniel Jones, and Stafford's on there, but he's always there. But I mean, when you're talking about those other two guys, you're like, that's how it's still early.
Yeah.
Because Dak's gonna disappear because it's Dak, and Daniel Jones is gonna return to being Daniel Jones. Do I think he's Giants Daniel Jones? No, of course not. I don't think anybody is as bad as they look with New York teams. But at the same time, that was shots fired. I know.
We heard you.
But again, where's the lie, right? So, I mean, there's a reason that Miami took Zach Wilson, because they've seen the pattern of you get drafted by a New York team, you go somewhere else and learn how to play football, and then you are decent at your next stop. Geno Smith did it in Seattle. Yeah. Darnold did it in, for the Vikings. Both those guys start out with the Jets, go to a competent coach, and then their next stop, they start playing good football. You have Zach Wilson, again with the Jets. He goes to a competent coach in Sean Payton. They're like, hey, you know what? Our guy gets hurt a lot. Let's take a flyer on this guy for nothing, because maybe we're that third stop where he actually learns how to play football.
So, hey, I'll put it this way, though. I only had a question with one pick. That's still an A there, Bo. You're all good, buddy. I just wanted to, this is a Jaguars show, and you had the Colts 5th. It had to be talked about. I'm just saying. Anyway.
No, I'm with you.
Let them know where you can be found.
Yeah, so if you're watching on YouTube, you can find me at Football-Talk. Roku is national streaming sports. And of course, if you are listening to our Wednesday show, that'll be 97.3 ICU Radio out of Atlanta. So there you go.
I mean, I can be found Travis D. Holmes, all the socials, BigCatCountry.com. You know how this goes. Come on, man. If you're looking for your Jacksonville Jaguars takes from the game, you're looking for anything from the pressers, of course, BigCatCountry.com. You got to get your takes from the guys on the ground, guys in practice, guys in the pressers, of course. And Nash, let them know where you can be found, sir.
Boots on the ground, as always, from Travis D. Holmes, my personal champion. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game. Check out my writings with the Fans First Sports Network covering your Jacksonville Jaguars as well as the Orlando Magic. Basketball season is coming. I'm just saying, Bo, if you got time, I'll talk some hoop with you sometime. It's cool.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm a little bitter still, but
I don't blame you. It's
especially
okay.
Watching OKC win. Like, you never want to see that.
So awkward. Yeah. I get it. But hey, at least they lost Kevin Durant and aren't as relevant as they used to be, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, a ring's a ring, right?
Fair enough. And of course, my work with the Black and Gold Banneret and the Night Shift podcast covering UCF football and basketball. UCF Basketball Media Day rapidly approaching. Look out for that. And of course, my work covering the Los Angeles Chargers with the Bolt Blitz Uncut. My guy Booga Peters and Buck D doing their thing there as well. I stay busy. What can I say? But Bo, thank you for jumping on. An excellent conversation for sure. And I did like your top 10. Like I said, it's just that one thing I had to ask about.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And of course, my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, holding it down. Thanks again to both of you, to all you Duval divers doing the thing. Until next time, everyone, class Dismiss.